Everybody, this is Hondo Carpenter from Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast with another edition for you today. Hope you're doing well, up early and well, depending on when you see it, you may be up late, but it's great to be with you. I'm taping this super early in the morning on Sunday and hope that you're well. Hope your family's doing well. Again, thank you for joining us. We are growing exponentially. So thankful for all of you that like and subscribe and share. Our content's completely free. We're pumping out a ton of content for you. You can always find it when you go to si.com/NFL/Raiders. You can also follow me on IG at Hondo SR and on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Hondo Carpenters. But anyways, it's great to be with you all today. Couple of things I want to address super quick. Many of you know I'm on vacation. I'm on a hunting trip, but I am leaving as soon as I'm done taping this, and I'm heading back to Vegas. There is nothing breaking as far as the GM, but I expect it. And this is not reporting anything is done, but I'm expecting Monday or Tuesday it will be done. That's kind of what I'm hearing that it could be, but nothing's done at the time of this taping. But I'm heading back there to be there, of course, for the press conference and to do what I do. I want to address one thing that has nothing to do with Raiders football, and then the rest of the podcast will all be about Raiders football. Yesterday, I just felt the impression, and I mentioned to all of you that I had recently, well, I say recently, it's been a few months, but I had read a survey, and it was just quick into my mind yesterday, about a huge percentage of Americans of all socioeconomic backgrounds, all races, male, female, all ends of the political spectrum, religious spectrum. And I don't remember if the figure was 75, 85, or but 90%, but it was close to 90 for some reason is what the number that sticks in my head of Americans that said they don't feel like they matter to anybody. And that stunned me when I read that. And it was a huge number. And so just at the end of the podcast yesterday, I just took a minute and just said to all of you, if nobody's told you lately that you matter to me. You matter to my family. And we're grateful for each of you that subscribe and like and share and all of it and watch. And I can tell you our family prays for you every day. And I just was stunned at the amount of emails that came in from you, the listeners, that said you were one of those people. And last night, before we went to bed, it was really late, but my wife and I just took time and we looked at every one of your emails. We read them, we prayed for you, and I just wanted to thank you for sharing with us. And I appreciate every morning. And well, I put these up every morning, but whenever you watch them, that we get to spend some time together and talk Raider football in the silver and black. And I just wanted you to know I appreciated your responses, and I appreciated you felt comfortable to share with us, and that you appreciated it. And I just wanted to let you know you were heard, and you matter. So wherever you are around the world, we heard from people from several different countries that said, "Hey, it's not just in America. I live in Mexico. I live in Scotland. I live in Ireland. I live in New Zealand." I have several, I would say probably 8 or 9 from different countries. So it was just great to hear from you guys. And I just want to tell you thank you for sharing that with me. And I appreciate all of you. All right, let's get right into Raiders. So one of the things that I like to do, and I think it's important, is I no longer spend as much time in the comment section as I used to, just because we've grown so much and I just literally can't. But I always try to pay attention for a couple reasons. Number one, if one or two people tell you, can you explain this? And you already explained it you can blow that off and say, well, maybe they just didn't listen. But when multiple people, then you know, okay, I probably failed in communicating. And I think it's important to listen to that. And I have no problems with criticism. When it gets personal, I just mute them. But I have no problems with criticism at all. And it's sometimes I think it's important because sometimes your critics are the only ones telling you what you need to hear. And I had a bunch of people say to me, do you think you were wrong for being critical of the Raiders hiring the head coach before the GM because Mark Davis just wanted to let AP have his time in the sun? Okay, I appreciate your sentiments, but that is not accurate. Um, they did not hire AP first because they wanted him to have his day in the sun. First of all, there's something that you need to be aware of. Friday is the least consuming day of information. Americans have their attention on a weekend and on other things. In fact, in television, I did television for many, many years and still do now as a guest appearance. But I mean, I've been a sports director and all that and an anchor. They call it the Friday dump. And what that means is you watch for press releases and everything else to come out on a Friday because that's the dump day. That's when the least amount of people are paying attention. So you a lot of times will see the government if there's something they really don't want you to know about or they don't want it to get as much attention, it comes out on a Friday. Companies will do that, whatever. And so number one, the Raiders PR people are exceptionally good. And so it wouldn't have come out if their sole purpose was to have given AP his time to shine, they would have done it on Thursday. There had not been a decision on a general manager, and I can tell you as of the taping of this, I know that there has not been a general manager decision made. Now, I don't need to go back ad nauseum and talk about everything that I talked about yesterday. You can go back and watch it, but I do want to hit the top points, and then I want to dig in a little bit more on why this is potentially a problem. And it's potentially a problem for a couple of reasons. First of all, now let me just say right up front, I still expect Champ Kelly to be named the general manager. Okay, it's not done. There is, as I've told you the other day, it was down to two people. Ed Dodds from the Indianapolis Colts. He's the assistant general manager. He's been there 7 seasons. He's been in the NFL for 21. Very well respected. Great option for the Raiders. Okay. And Champ Kelly, who is considered around the league, he is incredibly well respected. Incredibly well respected. He's a guy that agents respect. He is a guy that people in the league office have tremendous respect for. And he's a guy that other teams have incredible respect for. He's a lot like Ron Wolf. You may remember Ron Wolf was with the Raiders organization. They let him get away, and now many consider Ron Wolf to have been the greatest general manager in NFL history. Obviously, Champ's not there yet, but he has that potential to be that guy. But there is some dissension inside the Raiders between Dodds and between Champ. So for those that saying, I think it was just a chance to give AP his day, I can tell you factually that's not accurate. Now, it was imperative that I believe the general manager gets hired first because if you go back and look at the last several years of the Raiders, okay, you bring in John Gruden, who's the head coach and the boss. He hires Mike Mayock. Okay. And there were a lot of decisions made by John. And by the way, I really like John. So this is, and I think there were some things that John did wrong, but I think he did a lot right too. But I think it would have helped John if Mike Mayock could have been a governor to him a little bit. I think I don't care who the coach is. I always like the relationship with a general manager over a coach. Now, other than Belichick, and that's when he had Tom Brady. So really, the Patriot way, I wrote about this weeks ago, was really the Brady way. Um, Other than Belichick with Brady, it's never worked. Now, coaches get into a scenario. I'm on a hunting trip. Well, not anymore. I'm about to jump on an airplane, but I'll come back and finish my hunting trip. But um, coaches have a tendency, they can't see the forest because they're surrounded by trees. So they fall in love with a player. Maybe a player just gives them maximum effort. Okay. I'm not taking a bunny trail. I want to put this all in perspective. Many of you know about grades and player grades. In fact, the inventor of the draft board was a former Buffalo Bills head coach. He was a defensive coordinator on a Super Bowl team with Johnny Unitas. His name was Hank Bulla. Hank was a great friend of mine. I'm very close to his family, his grandsons, his son. Um, his sons are great guys. Both I'm friends with Chuck and Shane, and I'm friends, of course, uh, with Max and Riley, his grandsons, and great friends with the Bullas. Love that family. You may remember Riley. He was a rookie with Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they called him Joe Dirt in Hard Knocks. He was a very popular figure. So very good friends with that family. So Hank was the inventor of the NFL draft board. So he would rate players A, B, C, D. So you may be an A76 or a C52, whatever. And so Hank was the first to create the modern draft board. So when you were drafting, if you wanted to take just the best player, you just looked over and said, bam, okay, this is my guy. I put him here. You didn't, there was, it was very little prior to Hank. There would be 15 minutes between picks in the first round, and teams would be scurrying, okay, who do we want? And then Hank comes along and goes, this isn't efficient. I'm a coach. Coaches make everything efficient. Let's just do a draft board. So when it's our turn to pick, we walk over and go, this is the guy we want. And so he used to rate players. Now, that's still now common at all 32 teams. So let's just make up a player. Let's call him Tim Thomas. And he's a left tackle. And boy, you really like him at left tackle. He's an elite guy. He doesn't have the ability to slide over and play right. So that hurts him a little bit for position flexibility. But overall, let's say he's a really good. And Tim Thomas is a 77. Okay. So you're sitting there and you like him as a 77 on your board. You think, hey, I'm willing to invest a second round pick in this kid, Tim Thomas. Well, then you look at your board. Now, Hank had all the other players of other teams ranked as well. So he'd look over and say, well, look at this team over here has a guy who's 2 years into his contract. We've got him rated as a 78, but we can pick him up for a third round pick and save our second round for somebody else. So he'd trade for that guy and bring him over. He still had his second round pick. Value. And so he was able to look at people and value people and to say, okay, look at this is the guy we have. Now, what happens sometimes is coaches fall in love with a guy. Maybe they like him. Maybe their wives are friends. I heard a story one time about a head coach that would not, in the NFL, would not cut a player because their wives were friends. True story. I remember, I don't want to say too much. I don't want you to know what organization I'm talking about, but let's just say there was anger because the coach wouldn't cut this player. Now, that general manager had been brought in after a coach was hired, had been there actually a couple of years. So the coach had a little bit more leeway. A general manager can look at it and say, look, I'm glad you and your wives are friends. I appreciate that. But guess what? This is an upgrade, and you love the guy. As a general manager, I'm not as close to the players as you are. My job's to upgrade the roster. Love you, appreciate you. No, we're not picking this guy, or we're trading this guy and bringing this guy in. That delineation between those two jobs is so very important, because coaches are in the locker room. Coaches are with these players more than they're with their own families. Relationships get built. Sometimes I knew a guy, a wide receiver, that was prickly. Just one of those guys you get around, and never was really in a good mood. Wasn't a complainer, wasn't a locker room cancer, but just one of those people that you just didn't really, wasn't warm and fuzzy. Anyways, and the coach just didn't like him. And the general manager's like, listen, that guy's really good. He's really, really good. And we're not bringing this guy in to be your Sunday school teacher. That This is literally a conversation that happened. I was very familiar with the situation. And the the general manager told the coach, I'm not bringing this guy in to be a Sunday school teacher. I'm bringing him in to be a wide receiver, and you're going to play him. And that wide receiver went on to become an All-Pro. And you had to be able, there has to be, because relationships get built. Okay. How many of you love to look at pictures of your children? You love it. My son, Dexter Ernest Wayne Carpenter, and he's 18 months old. And we adopted him, and he is the most precious little baby in the entire world. Precious. Just amazing gift from God to our family. And we love him. And I'm constantly putting up pictures on him on social media because I love him. And I'll get people to say, Hondo, follow you for Raiders, don't care about your kid. And I get that. No, I don't think people are being mean. Why? Because our kids, to us, are the greatest, but not everybody else's. And that's human nature. That's human nature. I mean, people you have a fondness for. That's why when I'm reporting to you and I'll say, I want you to know, like, I'll give you a quick one. When Brian Hoyer came here, now I am friends with the Hoyer family. I don't mean this braggadociously. And I believe that I'm able to report on and look at Brian completely abject and fair. But I still said to you, I'm confessing to you a personal relationship with Brian Hoyer. We've been friends for many, many, many years. I'm friends with his parents, his brothers and sisters. I mean, was at his grandmother's funeral. Taught my son when he was in high school how to throw a football. My son went on and became quarterback. But I told you that not to brag, but I was telling you because I wanted you to know, in case you think my perspective of Brian was jaded by a personal relationship. And when you have that general manager with that divide, it makes it much easier to say, Coach, listen, I know you love this guy, but I need you to understand this person is a better player. Now, I understand you love them. I understand you enjoy coaching them. But my job as a general manager is to constantly be upgrading the roster. I can't tell you the number of times in the National Football League that I know of teams that could have drafted. I'll give you another quick one. I was told this at the combine several years ago. There was a AFC general manager and I were having a cup of coffee. And at the time, now I like it now. At the time, I hated coffee, but he asked me to get a cup of coffee, and you take a cup of coffee with the guy. And he said to me, I know you're friends with this coach. Wish you'd talk to him. I'm like, why? He's just got this guy that he's just so close with. He coached at another team, brought him with him. And man, he's so married to the guy, and he's a great guy. But I got a chance to get us better. See, I think when you run your team where, okay, the coach coaches the team. The coach coaches the team. But the general manager's job is to oversee it and say, am I providing him? It's the general manager's job to say, okay, this is what I want my team to look like. Then he goes and picks the coach who coaches in that style, who he has that relationship. Now, I mentioned yesterday, you want an esprit de corps between your coach and general manager. And there were several people that disagreed with me, which had very valid points. They said, no, I don't want esprit de corps. We've had esprit de corps between Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels and John Gruden and Mike Mayock. No, you didn't. You had one person in charge, McDaniels and Gruden, who said, this is what we're doing. Remember, I've already shared the story. Dave Ziegler wanted CJ Stroud. Josh McDaniels said no. Okay, that was it. But can you imagine if there was a esprit de corps and Josh said, okay, tell me why you want CJ. And if and Dave was able to present his information and then eventually say, okay, Josh, here's the deal. I'm moving up. I'm getting CJ. And Josh would be like, all right, you're the boss. There's unity there. There's esprit de corps. Esprit de corps doesn't mean free from disagreement. Esprit de corps means we're all going in the same direction, but there is a clear delineation of who the authority is, who the boss is. But yet it's not a dictatorial role. Damon Arnett would have never been a wasted pick by the Las Vegas Raiders had there been some delineation. But there wasn't. It was, that's the guy I want. There was no esprit de corps. It was, this is who I want. This is who I'm getting, not a collective. Now, in an esprit de corps, in a which is a Marine Corps term, but in a continuity of thought, you want that because you want to be able to. Everybody puts their opinion out there. Everybody's heard. So a coach who can clearly articulate, hey, this is why I want this guy. I coached him X, Y, and Z. He doesn't have the stats of the guy you like, but here's what I know about him that you don't. I'll give you a great one. Ron Wolf is general manager of the Green Bay Packers. He was familiar with Brett Favre. He had scouted Brett Favre. He had seen Brett Favre. He knew that Brett Favre threw some interceptions, but he knew he was a gunslinger. He knew he was a winner. There were people in Green Bay that did not want Brett Favre. Who's this kid? Okay. So he presents to the organization, hey, this is why we want Brett Favre. The organization listened to Ron. They respected Ron, said, okay, he comes in, fails a physical. But Ron says, I don't care. Pass him. He's our guy. Now, would anyone argue, even if you don't like Brett Favre, would anyone argue that the Packers weren't better for having Brett Favre? Why? Because he was the leader who was able to present, everyone got on board, and he brings in Brett Favre. That is my whole sentiment. Listen, Ed Dodds is a highly respected man. Champ Kelly is incredibly respected. I believe in talking to people around the league, Champ is more respected than Dodds, but it's not like Dodds is a bad pick. I'm not even remotely saying that. It'd be a good pick. But when you pick your general manager first, then you make the statement of this is our flow chart. This is my coach. Listen, I respect Mark Davis. He doesn't give a rip what I think. He doesn't give a rip what you think, and he shouldn't. It's his team. But I don't care if Mark picks the coach. If you're empowering the GM, and I do believe in this hire, they're going away from the Gruden, Mayock, Ziegler, McDaniels route, and they want a strong general manager. Then you want your guy to be able to say, this is my guy. I don't want to be here in 2 years or 3 years looking for a new coach. This is my guy. And I can tell you At the time of this taping, no GM had been picked. And so you want to make sure you have that. That's why I think it's so important. You want to know this is the guy. Hey, if you're a general manager that doesn't listen to your coach, you're a fool. But if you have a coach that's telling his general manager what to do, and you look at the track record of how that's worked in the NFL, and only one guy did it, and oh, by the way, he had Tom Brady, then you're making a poor decision, which is what we see in the last two regimes for the Raiders. So that was why. Listen, if I'm Mark Davis, I clearly wanted AP, but this hire should have been done by now. Talk about for the GM. Should have been done by now. Okay, you've interviewed Dodge, you know Champ. He's been in the chair. If you decided you can't agree on either one of them, well, who's making the decision? That's Mark. Well, but this is my committee. Okay, you know what a committee is? I tell people this all the time. You know what a camel is? It's a mouse designed by a committee. Hey, you can bring all these people in and get their opinions, but at the end of the day, you're the owner. You got to pick your guy that you trust to run your team, and you go with it. And you go with it. Now, I still expect Champ to get it. I still think it's a no-brainer. He's been in the chair. You know what he's done the whole time. I love it when people say, "What has Champ Kelly done?" Okay. We've talked about it ad nauseum. You just don't want him to get it, so you're trying to be argumentative and cantankerous. That's fine. Go somewhere else and argue. If you want to argue about Champ Kelly's resume, then clearly you haven't spent any time at all studying or listening, because we've delineated it multiple times. You just want to hear yourself talk. I can't tell you how many times people will comment on one of the podcasts and I'll be like, I just addressed it in this podcast that you're commenting on. Try listening. Same point. And Mark trusted his gut in getting rid of Josh. And I think sometimes you can get too many people in your ear. It's the same reason I say why you need a GM to be strong. He should listen to everybody and make the call. So I would expect, and this is purely speculation, this is not reporting. I can't imagine this going, I can't imagine it's gone this long, to be very frank with you. It is unnecessary that it went this long. So I can't even expect it to go past Tuesday. They're not going to make an announcement before the games today and upstart the games. And if that would not go over well with the NFL, and Mark Davis has proven that he wants to get along with the NFL. So an announcement could come. If it comes Sunday night after the games, you miss a big opportunity for your franchise to get as much momentum. It's just like when AP came out. It was a big miss based on the time of day. And there was a lot of excitement in the Raider Nation, but it could have been much bigger and gotten much more national attention had it been timed differently. I would expect it would come Monday, could be Tuesday at the latest, but that's my expectation. But again, at the time of this taping, nothing has been decided, and you make your decision and you go. Someone said to me, would you give us your assessment of who you think should get the job? Well, that's what I've been doing for weeks with Champ. But that someone said, why do you hate Dodds? Which makes no sense to me. I don't hate the guy at all. First of all, I don't know him. How do you hate somebody you don't know? Number two, I'm not a hater. But number three, he's very well respected. Tremendously respected. He's good at his job. Now, I believe, let's go back to the coaching situation. Jim Harbaugh. And I laugh because people will say, Hondo doesn't like Harbaugh because he's a Spartan and Harbaugh's a Wolverine. Then you don't know me. I like Jimmy a lot. I think he's a great coach. Great coach. I said multiple times, 31 of the 32 franchises, if you needed a coach, Jim Harbaugh's the call that you make. If I'm Carolina today, I call Jim Harbaugh and say, listen, we're a mess. Come fix it. If I'm Atlanta and I have a choice between Belichick and Harbaugh, it's not even a choice. You make Harbaugh the pick. If I'm the Chargers, I go pick Patrick Graham. Patrick Graham would be my guy for several reasons. But I think now they're going into salary cap hell. They're going to have to dump a lot, and Patrick's going to have to learn. And and so I think you come and say, listen, it's going to be a few tough years, but we believe in you. During those tough years, you're going to learn through the maturation scale about being a head coach, but we're going to ride this out with you. And you give Patrick Graham a 5-year deal and you ride it out. And I think at the end of 5 years, Patrick Graham would have that team in super competitive and in a great position. So I guess for 30 of the teams, I would take Harbaugh. But AP was the clear choice with the Raiders. Okay, it's the same situation. Dodds is tremendously good at what he does. If Mark Davis ended up hiring him, there's nothing you could say about Ed Dodds to be critical other than Champ's been in the chair. We already know what he's done in a GM role. We also know what he's done revamping the entire scouting system here. We also know all the things he's done. So he's better for this job. Now, I think because he has more experience in the chair than Dodds, if you're the other 32 teams looking for a general manager and your choice is Champ or Dodds, that you'd go with Champ because he has more experience in the chair. But either one would be a great option. Now, so we're just waiting to see what happens there. And I hope that was a fair explanation to you of why I like that difference between a GM, why I like that difference between a coach and a GM. You know, we know that Champ already picked AP. So there is that harmony. We also know that AP has tremendous respect for him, and he should, and just how the whole thing works out. To me, it just is a perfect match for the Raiders moving forward. Okay, now I want to get to AP. Many of you are aware of this, but we've grown so much that some of you may not be aware. I have a rule with new coaches. First of all, to me, in the NFL, there are some franchises that you go get a coordinator with no head coaching experience. Okay. But there are certain blue blood franchises, blue chip franchises like the Raiders, where I don't think this is a place you come and learn how to coach. So if I was Mark Davis, I would never hire a coach with no head coaching experience. Now, hear me out. AP gets the job on an interim level. So he got to learn a lot of those things. So because he was already here in an interim level, he now has head coaching experience. That's why I supported him. Now, I have said this multiple times. When a new coach comes in, I give that coach 20 games. Now, here's why. 17 games is a season, and then allows you to be 3 games into their next year after they've had a couple of drafts. They've had an offseason picking their own free agents of who they want to pick and play until I start to really nitpick. And I've had multiple people ask me with AP, do you just, because he's already has 9 games, do you already now only give him 11 before you do that? No, he's going to get 20 because he came in with no training camp, no OTAs, no mini camps, no draft after the trade deadline. Now, as you can tell by my figure, my wife is a tremendous cook. My mother-in-law is Unbelievable cook. So leaving my mother-in-law out of this conversation, it's like going into a refrigerator and you got a thing of mustard, bottle of horseradish, and some expired hot dogs. And somebody tells you to make a gourmet meal out of that. My mother-in-law could, trust me. My wife, she'd give good effort. But most humans couldn't do anything. I couldn't. I'm a horrible cook. When you inherit a coach, I mean, put an interim coach in, no trade deadline, no OTAs, no mini camps, stuck with the staff, which he would not have kept all the staff. And I've told you that I was going to be let go. And you know that now. But when you do all of that, he has no chance to mold the team. He's just doing his best to keep it between the lines. We got 15 inches of snow the other night, and I'm in my truck and it's 4-wheel drive, but even if it's 4-wheel drive, still got ice and snow, and you're trying to just keep it between the lines. That's what AP did. That's why the job that AP and Champ did last year was so phenomenal. No OTAs, no mini camps, no training camp, no trade. I'm past the trade deadline. They just willed that team to 5-4. So he's going to get 20 games from me. In that 20 games, let me tell you what's going to happen with AP. He's going to make some rookie coach mistakes. And you just understand that's part of the learning curve. Okay, you guys know this. When a rookie comes in, I offer an immense amount of grace. How many people 5 weeks into the year were calling Tyree Wilson a bust? Then the last part of the season, he was one of the best young defensive linemen in the National Football League. Look at how many people call Aiden O'Connell a bust. Perennial backup, terrible. He sucks. We don't know if he's the next Ken Stabler. We do know he doesn't suck. He ran the offense that they wanted him to run. Hey, we don't want you to take this risk. We're going to punt and let our defense stop everybody. Okay? He sucked. Okay. There's going to be rookie mistakes. So when you have a rookie, okay, let's go back to Aiden's first start at Los Angeles. Josh McDaniels changed nothing in the offense. This is our offense. We're sticking with it. He looked terrible. Okay, so did Jimmy Garoppolo and others, because the Raiders didn't have the personnel to do what Josh wanted. And then you were asking a rookie to do things that the veterans couldn't do. Well, Aiden sucks. No, Aiden didn't suck. You didn't put a scheme around your player that worked for your player. How different was he when he was put in a scheme that fit him? Did he look like Brett Favre? No. Did he look like Patrick Mahomes? No. Did he look like Tom Brady? No. But you're telling me Aiden O'Connell, the last games of the year looked like Aiden O'Connell in LA? Come on now. Come on. You're smarter than that. That don't take a donkey brain at midnight and old Tim Barton to figure that out. Come on now. He's not that guy. Now, we don't know that he's QB1, and I've said I'd go draft a quarterback. You want there to be competition. But man, you got to give. So, rookie year. The second year, you want to see players start to get more reps, play more. And then third year is what is known in the NFL as the money year. That's when players need to be establishing themselves. So let's go back and look at Malcolm Koonce. His first year, I mean, I remember when he was drafted, I talked to you about the way he bent his body and the way he moved his body really showed potential for the kid. But he was making the step from Buffalo, which is a MAC school, coming to the NFL. That is a huge step. Okay. In the first year, we saw some signs. Year two, you saw some signs, but you saw some growing pains. And coming into this year, I told you this is the money year for Coots. And you can go back and read this and watch videos. This is what I said. I believe in him. I think he has the potential to be really good. But this is the money year. And what did you see? That last 2/3 of the season, that last half of the season, man, Malcolm Koonce came on. Whew. Good night, Irene. Money year. Why? Because now going into next year, huge expectations on him and Max. Could be the best bookend defensive ends in the NFL. And he proved this year in his money year, he's entrusted to that spot. And next year he goes and gets his big extension and makes a lot of money because he proved it. If he hadn't have done that this year, then you know, all right, we're going to keep around for one more year as a body, but we're moving on from him. That wasn't the case with him. And so when you get to the third year is when I expect the most out of a player. That's like Tyree. I think Tyree showed us a lot more than Malcolm did his rookie year. And where he was picked and paid, he should have. But he's going to keep coming. That youngster has a lot of flash. So back to AP, I give him 20 games. 20 games, he's going to learn more. And when he makes a mistake, I'll point out and say, that's a rookie coach mistake. But you understand that. My son Dexter is 18 months old. And when my son Shane or Noah, who are both adults, come over to my house, I don't pick up my coffee and put it at a higher place. Why? Because they're not going to come over playing and grab the coffee and spill it on themselves. They're older. But when Dexter's around, I put my coffee up at a place he can't reach. Why? Because he's 18 months old. I have different expectations of him than I do when Shane and Noah are here, or my other children. I'm just using Shane and Noah as an example. So, you know, I'll say, hey, pick your coffee up. I say this because my son Noah, a couple of weeks ago, he came over to play cards and have dinner. And I told Noah, I said, hey, remember your little brother, put your thing up. And he goes, oh, okay. And he picks his drink up. You point those things out. But when rookie mistakes are made, you just say, hey, that's a rookie mistake by a coach. He'll be fine. Or, hey, that's a player the coach hasn't had a chance to upgrade at. You show him grace. Then after 20 games, then you can start to be more specific and critical. But AP is going to get those 20 games from me starting in week 1. And I'm telling you right now, there's going to be some mistakes. But there's going to be more success than mistakes. And you grow as a franchise and you grow as a team with him. And I think the sky is very bright with Antonio Pierce. Very, very bright. So this is a good day for you Raider guys and gals. This is a good day for you. You guys know this. My wife now is since they hired AP, she is all in. She's all Raiders. and every day she's coming up 4 or 5 times a day. Did we hire Champ yet? No. And I said, what is this we? This isn't Green Bay. You don't know the team. She'll say, shut up. I'm a fan. Did we hire Champ? No, we haven't. I said, we haven't. Talking about her. And she laughs. And I addressed one other thing yesterday that I think is really important. If you watch the games yesterday, 2 really, really good football games, different, but I still thought they were good games. And there's going to be some really good games on today. Well, I guess depending on when you watch it. But if you get a chance, watch those. Watch those games. Be very analytical watching those games. You guys now have an entire off season, 6 months. 6 months. You ended the season. You beat the Broncos twice, which is, well, they've never beaten the Las Vegas Raiders. You beat the Bolts and at home, would have beaten them in LA had AP been the coach. I have no doubt with that. And you beat the Chiefs in their place. Oh, by the way, on Christmas. 5-4. If you had somehow won one other game, you would have been in the playoffs. Just missed it. But you're ascending. Now, CBS Sports released something, and I want to credit them. I want to credit them because it's their information. The Raiders winningest head coaches in the last 35 years. Hugh Jackson was 8-8. He had a winning percentage of 500. John Gruden was 60-57. He had a winning percentage of 513. Art Shell was 56-52. He had a winning percentage of 519. Rich Bisaccia, 5-4. Excuse me. Antonio Pierce, 5-4. Had a winning percentage of 556, second highest in the last 35 years. Rich Bisaccia, 7-5. 583 was his winning percentage, the highest in the last 35 years. Y'all haven't had a whole lot to cheer about in 35 years. You just haven't. You had two coaches that take you to a playoff, both get fired. There's been a moving of the franchise. There's just been a lot of turmoil in your franchise. Now you got an off season. Take a deep breath. You got your coach that understands your culture, that understands who you are, that's bringing toughness. There's a song by a young man who's an actor. I think he sang in the group New Kids on the Block, where he talks about, I'm bringing sexy back. I don't remember who the guy was, but I remember that song. I remember that song for a funny reason, not a bad reason, just a funny reason that you don't care about. But you got a coach now riding in his 6'4" Impala, wearing his all blacked out Nikes, who's bringing Raider back. And I think that's going to be fun. Now I love the game of football, so I'm looking forward to watching it. I'm looking forward to watching what AP does. He's a good man. I love to watch good people succeed. And I think it's going to be fun to see what he brings back resonate with all of you. So enjoy this. In 35 years, you haven't had a whole lot of peace. You do now. Would I have handled the GM thing differently? 100%. But it's not like it's the end of the world that they're going to announce the GM after the coach. It's not the end of the world. But enjoy this time now. There's going to be big coaching changes coming. Some of them have already been out there. I'm not going to get into any of those. After the coaching change, I'll get into all of those. I'm going to get into names. I am hearing names. I've been hearing names for a while. I think there are some people that AP has locked in on and who he wants to add to his staff. I know there's a lot of guys that want to come here. And so he is going to be very careful. He's going to have a very experienced staff. Now, their experience may come on the field. They may not be the most experienced coaches. Like AP's not the most experienced coach in the world. You put his resume next to Belichick. There's no comparison. But he's going to have people that know the game, that get the game. You're going to have a wonderful mixture. But for right now, I want to keep the focus of where it is. We're talking about AP, who's here. We're going to look at the general manager search. We're going to get into all the coaches and stuff. I can tell you there are a lot of really good names that you're going to recognize. You're going to be able to say, man, I like that guy's football acumen. I like the way that person thinks about the game of football. I think you guys are going to be really impressed. And if you're being fair, there's not a whole lot AP hasn't done that hasn't impressed you. And I don't think there's any reason to doubt him. I've had a couple of people ask me, do you feel like bringing Marvin Lewis on staff is just throwing up a retread? No. Marvin Lewis is a great coach. I can tell you there were a lot of people that felt like, first of all, when you look at what he did in the Natty with an ownership group that is perennially cheap and perennially questioned, and I don't mean questioned from an integrity standpoint, just questioned from a football IQ sentiment. What he did in the Natty was incredible. Incredible. Marvin Lewis is not a good coach. Marvin Lewis is a great coach. And by the way, great guy. Great guy. I can tell you years ago, I pushed hard to get him hired at Michigan State. And he ended up at the Natty. So good for him. I would have coached in the NFL before going to college then as well. But he's a great coach. I think that was a smart hire. And again, it shows AP's ability to say he isn't up there an egomaniac. Man, I won a Super Bowl. I'm from Compton. I'm a Raider. I know every. No. It's, hey, I'm a Raider and we're committed to winning. It's not a commitment to ego. It's a commitment to excellence. I'm going to bring people in who know what I don't, who I trust. That should excite you. I was stunned at the amount of people being critical of AP for that. I was stunned. So that's where we sit today. No decision's been yet made. There is a group who would like Dodds. There's a group that would like Champ Kelly. That's where the Raiders sit. I did not expect it to go this long, and I'll be stunned if it goes past Tuesday. Doesn't mean it won't. I'll just be stunned. And the Raiders, Champ Kelly continues. He's in the chair. So he's looking at guys that they can add to futures contracts. Him and his staff are still scouting players, still planning and working towards the draft. So if he gets the job, even though I don't like the timing, you're not losing anything. And if he doesn't get the job, then I'm going to be super critical. Why didn't you pull the trigger before to give your new general manager more time to get ready? Time is vital right now. There are hundreds of prospects, hundreds. And let's assume it's Dodds. Indianapolis runs a different system than the Raiders. So even though he may have been evaluating players for their draft, now you got to sit down with AP, you got to learn everything that he does, how he does it, how he wants it. Then you've got to start asking, okay, What kind of players do I want that fit this system? Or am I going to try to get my coach to change? I mean, if you're not going with Champ Kelly, then shame on you for not having it done. If you're going with Champ Kelly, still should have done it sooner, but okay, whatever. He's in there working every day in the chair and doing a darn good job. So that's where the Raiders are today. I hope you enjoy some great football today. I hope you get to sit back and enjoy it. And I hope these next 6 months, I gotta tell you this. So very, very quickly, I had so many people offer to give me cigars after wins for the Raiders. And listen, I am very highly allergic. So years ago when I was born, my parents were smokers. And, I was born 71. And so they did not understand for several years. They did not understand. They thought I was antisocial, whatever. And because when I would be around smoke, now obviously I was a little baby. I don't remember this, but my mom and dad would say I would crawl out of the room or I would crawl over and try to get away from people. And they thought I was antisocial. So they take me to the doctor and they're trying to figure out what's wrong. And they're like, no, I don't think he's antisocial. The doctor like, look at, he hugs me. And they brought a nurse in. I don't remember any of this. I was little and I hugged her and I don't think he's antisocial. And then they said, maybe he's getting sick. And they did a bunch of studies and tests. Well, eventually they found out I was allergic to tobacco smoke. I was allergic to most smoke. I'm an outdoors and I love campfires, but I have to be super careful even around campfires. And so that's not me. I'm not a cigar smoker. I don't smoke. I never have. And but I had people trying to send me cigars, and I'm like, no, it's not me. And I got to laugh because so many of you sent me pictures of smoking a Victory cigar when AP got the job, and I just thought that was fun. So again, to all of you who offered to send me cigars, I'm not a fan. I'm not going to be smoking cigars, celebrating anything, but that's not what I do. But there was a real medical. And by the way, this will make you laugh. This is how they found out, and they started to do the study and found out my allergy was to smoke. Was the doctor lit up? That's how old I am. And I tried to crawl away. And they're like, see, that's what he does. That's what he does. And they come to find out that's how they found out that I was allergic to cigarette smoke really bad. So thank you for all the offers. I appreciate it. You enjoy them. You guys have a good time. And I appreciate y'all. I will tell you, I got an email yesterday. Someone in the organization said to me, you got to wear, AP wears these black Nikes and they're all black. And I don't know what they call, they're like, I wear Jordans. And Hugh Myers from Raider Nation Radio and Paul Gutierrez from ESPN, they talk about a particular Nike shoe. So I just bought a pair of those. That's not a Jordan, which I only wear Jordans until I bought these. But he wears a particular pair of, they're all black. And someone's like, hey, I know you're not a fan and you don't wear Raider gear, which I will next week because I promised you a hoodie if AP got the job. But somebody said to me, would you wear a pair of these? I said, there's no need for you to buy me a pair of shoes. I don't want a pair of shoes. You don't need to do it. Would you wear them? I said, as long as I don't say Raider, I would. I'm not going to turn on a free pair of shoes. So I got an email yesterday. I'll show them to you when I get them. Because I wear between a 14 and a 15 size shoe. And so I got a pair coming that are all black. So if they don't say Raiders, so I'm good. I'll wear them. But I'll make sure I show them to you. But enjoy this time right now, Raider Nation. This is a good time for you to be a Raider. Your organization's getting a ton of great publicity, which has not happened in a long time. A long time. I can't tell you the number of radio interviews I have done all over the country, podcast interviews. Everybody wanted to talk about the Raiders. Everybody wanted to talk about the Raiders. And it's all positive. Enjoy that. That's not always been par for the course with the Raiders. So I hope you enjoy that. Thanks for joining me. Look forward to talking to you again tomorrow. Remember, check out all of our information when you go to si.com/NFL/Raiders. Additionally, if you could, I think it would behoove you, at the top right-hand corner says newsletter. If you click on that and sign up, we don't sell your information and we don't spam you. But 3 days a week, you'll get an email from us with our biggest and best stories. We put up so much content. The other day, I think we put up 15 stories. Yesterday, I think we did 9. I think we're going to do 9 or 10 today. But we put up so many stories, you may miss one. So you don't want to miss any of those. We'll get those sent to you. Or you can follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Hondo Carpenter. You can also find me on IG at Hondo SR. Now, if you don't want to look at my face during a podcast, and I don't blame you, let's be honest, I'm not an attractive man here. Got a gorgeous wife, not an attractive man. I think any men are. You can also listen to my podcast. When you go to Spotify or Apple, you can find it there. Additionally, each day, I do an additional audio-only podcast. It never goes more than 10 minutes, but it's usually right around 5. It's just a quick tidbit of information. I may just walk out of a practice and I just record it. And it's called Riding with Hondo and Dexter. And me and my son hanging out. Usually I do it in the car. Sometimes I do it in my office. Sometimes I do it in the parking lot. But wherever I am, if I get a quick call or have a nugget of information, I just stop, tape it, and give it to you. It's just a quick, 5 to 10 minute podcast that I think you'll really, really enjoy. So from all of us to all of you, enjoy your off season. Let's hope that we get a puff of silver and black smoke coming out of the Intermountain Healthcare Training Facility, where the Raiders headquarters is, and the Raiders get their GM picked and get to move the process forward. I want to thank you for sharing part of your time with me. I know that you don't have to. I know that. I'm not entitled to your time. You share it with me. And I don't take it for granted. And I appreciate you. We're praying for all of you. Hope you have a tremendous day. Enjoy. Have a good day and relax and watch some football. Enjoy your off-season, Raider Nation. This one's for you.